In this video, we will be making a sign up page. Our page looks similar to this. So our sign up page has a form. We can type in random values in this form, contact and password. So as we click on the submit button, the inputs field will get reset. So we'll be learning how to make this, and this page is completely responsive. That is, even for devices with smaller widths, it will look perfect. So as you can see, as I decrease the width, our page looks perfect. So let's begin with this. So before we begin, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Let's move to our VS Code. Firstly, we need a HTML file to write our HTML code. For that, we create an index.html file. And for styling, we'll use a separate CSS file. We'll name it style.css. And we need a background image. For that, I have copied one image URL. So firstly, let's begin with our HTML code. So in our index.html, we'll first insert the boilerplate code and change the title from here to sign up and link our CSS file to our main HTML. And start with our live server. We have started our live server, and right now our page is blank. So let's add some components to it. So our page mainly contains of two parts. That is the left and the right part. So the left part contains some content and the right part contains a form. So we'll first enclose these left and the right containers in a single bigger box. So we'll just give it a class name of login screen. That is, the bigger box will have a class name of login screen. So class names can be used for any element. They are used to target that element. When we'll be using JavaScript or CSS, we'll style the bigger div with a class name of login screen. So class names are identity. IDs are identity of that element. Like we have our name, the elements also have specific names. We can call them by their name. So this login screen contains two parts, that is the left and the right part. So we'll just give them with two divs. So divs are container tag. We'll enclose within the big container two different containers with a class name of login left. The other will have a class name of login right. So in our left part, we have some content. So we'll wrap it up in another div with the class name of L content, and this contains a content, that is, it contains a heading. So for heading, we use h1 to h6 tags. So here we will take h2 tag and it will contain some dummy text. So for inserting dummy text, we just write lorem, and after that we write the number of words we need to insert, and the VS Code suggests us an emit abbreviation option. We can just hit enter and the number of words will be inserted. After this, we need a paragraph. We'll again insert dummy text with, let's say, 34 words. And after this, we have a button. So for a button in HTML, we have a button tag. And this button will have a class of, say, btn. This class will be used to style the button, the btn class. This button will have a content of, let's say, no more. So with this, we are completed with the HTML part of the left container. Let's see what our page shows up. So our page contains a heading, a paragraph and a button. So this is all we needed for the left part. Now let's come to the HTML of the right part. So in the right div, we'll just create a div named login with a class name of login input, because it contains some input fields. So we can just assign a div a class name so that we can identify which div it is. Like for the right container, I'm using login right. So we can just give them simple names so we don't get confused. This login input contains a heading that is sign up. And after this, we have a form. So for form, we will be using a specific form tag. And this form contains various input fields. It contains 4 input fields: name, email, contact, and password. So these 4 inputs, we will be creating 4 divs with their class names as name, email, contact, and password. And these divs, each of these divs will be containing a heading of that input. So first we have our name, then we have an input field. So for that in HTML we have an input tag, and we can specify it a type attribute which contains that what type of input we will be typing in that input field. So in case of name, we will be typing some text in that input field. So we can just say input type to be text. In case of email, we will have a heading of email. And this will have an input type of email. Then after this, we have a contact. So for contact, we'll have a heading of contact, and it will have an input type of numbers because a contact will contain some numbers. Next we have a password. So a password will contain a heading with heading named password. And for passwords we have specifically an input type, that is password itself. Input type to be password. With this we are completed with our input fields. Let's see what comes up on our page. So yes, we are getting 4 labels with 4 input. So we can type in text here. After this we need a button and a forgot password link. So let's insert them also. So below the password div, we just add a button. Using a button tag, it will have a class of btn which we have used for a previous button, as we'll be specifying same properties to these. So we'll give them the same class name. And we'll also specify it with another class so that we can specify some specific properties to this button itself, and it will say submit. Below this button, after this form, we'll just create a link. So for hyperlinks we use anchor tag. Anchor tag, that is a tag. So we'll just enclose it in an h4 tag and just write a with the href of hash, that is this link will not be directing to anywhere, to any other page. And this link will have a content of forgot password. With this we are completed with our HTML. So a basic skeleton for the web page is ready. Now we need to style our web page. So let's move on to our style.css. In this anchor tag, we'll just specify it with the class name of, say, flink. We'll be using this class name to style this anchor tag. And now we are complete with the HTML. So let's move on to our style.css file. So in our style.css, we'll first be styling our body. So our body contains a background. That is, the whole page contains a background. So we'll specify background for our body itself. So this will have a background image. We'll specify the URL of the image within single quotes. I'll just copy paste this URL. We can either download an image or we can just paste its URL over here. Let's see if we get that image. Yes, you can see we are getting an image, but the image is repeating itself. So we need to adjust that. For that, we have another property, that is background repeat. We'll specify it a value of no repeat because we don't want our background to be repeated. Next, let's see what comes up. So now we can see our background is not being repeated, but it's not covering the whole screen. We want it to cover the whole screen. For that, we have another property, that is background size. So we'll just write background dash size. This will be specified with the value cover. Now our image will cover the background. So with this, we have styled our body. We'll add just one more property to it, that is color. So color specifies the font color, that is the text color. So here we'll specify it white because we need the whole text in our page to be white. So yes, it's coming up. Now we need to style a login screen, that is the bigger div which contains the left and the right part. So let's write dot login screen. Since login screen is a class name, we target class names in CSS by just writing a prefix dot. We'll specify login screen a height of 100% because we want the screen to be a full height. Then we'll specify it a padding of 0, 10%, 0 and 10%. So this is a shorthand property for padding. This specifies padding in all the sides, that is top, right, bottom and left. So the first value specifies padding at the top, the next value specifies padding at the right, the next, that is the third value, specifies padding at the bottom. This can also be used for margin, and the fourth value specifies padding at the left side. So we can either use this or we can specify the properties like padding top, padding bottom, or we can just use the shorthand property. So let's see. So we are getting some padding and the height is also 100%. Now we need this left and the right container to just align in a single line. For that we have another property, that is display flex. So we'll just say display as flex. And let's see. So yes, the left and the right container are just coming in a single line. So with display flex property, we have other properties associated like justify content, which specifies the horizontal alignment of the components inside the display flex. So we'll just give it a value of center. We have another property, that is align items. It sets the vertical alignment of the components inside the display flex. This will also have a value of center, and we have another property, that is flex wrap. That is, we need to wrap the containers one after the another, that is one below the another or not. So here we'll just specify no wrap. This property will be used to make our page responsive further. So let's see what we are getting at. So yes, we have just styled a login screen, but still the left and the right containers need more styling. So we'll just target our left container now. So left container had a class name login left, so we'll just type dot login left, and this will be specified with a width of 50% and some padding, let's say of 20 pixels. And we'll also specify it a font size of 1.2 rem. So rem is also a unit that is used to specify sizes in CSS. So yes, our left container is occupying a width of 50%. It has some padding and the size is also changed. Now we need to target the content that is inside the left container, that is the L content. We'll just specify it a width of 100% since it will be occupying all of the 50% width the login left container has. Now we'll target our right container, that is the form one. So we'll type in dot login right, and it will also have a width of 50%. Next, we'll just specify it with a margin top of 30 pixels and with a background color of we want this background color to have some opacity, so we will be specifying 4 values here, that is RGBA. So A is the alpha part, it specifies opacity to any color. 0.452, let's say. Yes, let's see if it comes up. So yes, we are getting a background color on our form, but as you can see, the text is just sticking to the left side. So for that, we'll add a padding left to this login right container. Padding left. We'll just say it has a padding left of 50 pixels. And after this, we'll also specify some padding at the top to be 20 pixels. Let's see if it's spaced properly. So yes, it has been spaced from all the sides. Now, just we need to remove this sharp corners that our container has. Here you can see a container has rounded corners. So to remove these sharp corners, we use the border radius property. So this border radius property will be having a value of 5 pixels. And yes, we are getting the rounded corners. Now we will be targeting our input fields. As we need to specify some height, we need to style our input fields. We need to specify it with some height, width that would make our page look more good. So for that, we'll just type in login right since our input fields are enclosed in the login right container, and after that we'll type input. So input will target all the input tags. Here we'll just specify it a width of 88% and a height of 30 pixels. Let's see if it's coming up. So yes, the height and widths are all set. Now we need to remove this outline. Like when we are just going to that input field, we are getting a black outline. To remove that, we'll just say outline to be 0. After this, we'll just specify it a border radius to remove the sharp corners it has of 5 pixels. With this, we are completed with our styling of input fields. Now we need to target our buttons. We need to style our buttons. So our buttons had a class of btn. We'll just target it with writing .btn and we'll specify some padding to our button, that is some inner spacing to our button. Padding is used to specify inner spacing within the container. So let it have a padding of 10 pixels and a color of specifies the font color. The font color that the button has. Let's say it has a color of this, a blue type color, and we'll also specify it a background. So the background of our button has some opacity, so again we'll be specifying 4 values over here. That is RGBA. Next we'll also specify a border radius to our buttons of 5 pixels. Let's see how our buttons looks now. So yes, there's something else that we can do. We can remove the border our button has. So we can just specify a border to be 0. Yes, now let's see. Yes, our buttons just look perfect for now, but as this is the page that we are replicating, so as we just as a cursor comes in the vicinity of the button, it changes. That is, it changes to a pointing hand. For that, we need to specify another property, that is cursor to be pointer. So for the buttons, we'll just specify the cursor to be pointer. So yes, we can just see we are getting that pointing hand. Next, we need to add some hover functionalities to the button. That is, we can just write .btn, that is the class. Then we'll add a colon and add hover. So when we hover on the button, we need to change its background color to white. Let's see if it works. So as we hover on this button, we are seeing that the background color of the button changes. Yes. So now we have styled our buttons, but we need this button, that is the submit button, to occupy the same width as our inputs are occupying. So for that, we need to style this submit button specifically. So we have given it another class name, that is btn form. So we'll just target it with a class name of .btn form. This will have a width of say 90%, and we'll also specify some margin at the top to be say 20 pixels. Let's see how our page looks now. So yes, we have styled the submit button. Now we need to change the forgot password link. We need to change the color of that link. So for that, we have specified a class name of flink to our anchor tag. We'll just say it has a color of red. So yes, with this we have completed styling our page for this screen. Now we need to check that if our page is responsive also or not. For that, we'll inspect our page. We'll just right click that our page is totally distorted for smaller widths. So for that, we need to make our page responsive. We need to style it for responsive views also. For that, we'll be using media queries in CSS. So we'll just start with making our page responsive. We'll type @media and specify it a maximum width of 1075 pixels. That is, we want the properties that we'll be writing inside these curly braces to be applied only when the screen has a maximum, that is, the screen width is maximum up to 1075 pixels. Beyond that, we don't want these properties to be applied. So for that, we need a login screen to be specified with a flex wrap property, which we have earlier specified as no wrap. We will be changing it to wrap. So the left and the right containers will just align one below the another. We need our left container to occupy now a width of 100%, not 50% here. And we'll change its padding to be say 20 pixels now. Next, we'll target our right container and we'll just say it has a width of 100%. Let's see how our page looks now. We need to again inspect it. Yes, so as we have decreased the width of the screen, our page looks perfect even now. So we have completed making our page responsive. We have just made the same web page as that we saw earlier. So we can type in some inputs over here. And let's see if we click on submit, what happens? As we click on submit, nothing happens because our page just reloads. But we need something else. We need our input fields to be just reset. So here we'll just add a type of, say, reset. And let's try it again. Some random values. Contact, password, and as we click on submit, the input fields get reset. So now we have completed making our sign up page. This is all for this video. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Thank you.